Val steered us along game trails after that, so as she led the way, I started talking about it, signaling Val to keep going as I did.
So, as the folks at home can see here, we're hauling ass down game trails. Now, of course, there's some risk involved here, with regards to predators hunting the trail. But on the other hand, the trails are beaten paths that won't have a ton of obstacles for us to steer around. Given the current state of the game, it's the best choice we got in front of us.
Val slowed a bit as I caught up alongside her and quirked an eyebrow at me. I just shook my head and kept running. I couldn't tell her my thought process, not knowing that we were essentially bugged at all times. The best I could hope for was that people watching would be entertained by us both taking risky action and getting a view into the headspace of this. As we continued past that, I began taking a more thorough look at the wilderness itself. The trees, one way or another, seemed vaguely consistent with Earth, though there were obvious differences. The needles of evergreens here would be better termed as everreds. I was also hoping we see more of those, since it looked like birch bark on them.
Now, if y'all look around as we're running, you'll see that plenty of the flora is budding right on up, and that tells us that we're in the season of spring. That gives us near on the full year to prep ourselves for winter, which was right neighborly of Mr. Ravage Teak and y'all.
Val had obvious questions, but kept them to herself. We took a couple of other short rests, and at one rest point I did an address.
Now, I know some of y'all were looking forward to seeing some predators of this world along here, but there's a solid reason that they aren't coming after us. They don't really know us yet, and we seem to be in an awful hurry. Fun fact, on our world, we're known as endurance predators. We ain't the fastest by far. We certainly ain't the strongest, but we never stop coming. Yeah, we're stopping, but that's mostly to see to the directions.
I could only hope my ancestors would forgive how hard I was digging into Southern drawl, but it gave a unique lilt, and I was sort of just banking on Southern charm to pull potential viewers. There would be other ways later, but here in the very beginnings of the game was our best time to get people on our side. Shortly after that, I started to see bits of the bluff through the canopy, and we began changing course more directly uphill, hoping to avoid most of the worst parts of climbing up to it. Val was holding up, but we weren't going to be able to do much for the rest of the day once we got into position. With a little over 11 minutes remaining, we were in a great position to make it to the bluff. The last bit of the trek, though, did force us to slow down. I could hear the distant sound of a waterfall on the other side of the bluff as we approached a natural set of switchbacks leading up onto the bluff. I did find a fallen piece of wood that would make an essentially decent walking stick and passed it to Val, who took point.
Now, y'all, it might seem silly to stop to get us a stick, but when you're climbing rock like this, it's an essential. Val's using it right now to test where she's putting her foot, so we can both stay safe, and then I only step where she stepped. Ideally, it'd be better for both of us to have one for each hand, but survival's all about making do with what you got, not what you want.
I got the impression that Val was getting annoyed with my asides, but hopefully we'd get a moment alone soon, and I could talk with her directly. I just couldn't risk blowing the game yet. We crested the top of the bluff, and despite the situation, the view was breathtaking. The yellow sun and blue sky were more saturated on this world than ours, and it really lit everything up. Some slight wisps of clouds, but nothing that leaned in the direction of any incoming weather issues. Since the forest was bound to a uniform green like on Earth, it was as abundant in color as autumn up north. We could see the waterfall, which emptied into a lake, then a river cutting through between the hills and mountains as it snaked toward the ocean. Having little else to do for a few minutes and spotting a suitable boulder, we sat down near the edge of the ridge and just hung out.
I know this ain't exactly the situation we wanted, but you gotta admit, it's really pretty.
Val laughed a bit, her shoulders shaking.
Oh, yeah. Aside from the whole alien abduction turned Hunger Games thing, yeah, it's fucking gorgeous.
We both laughed. The sheer absurdity of everything sort of caught up on us. Before, we'd been just reacting to everything, so this was the first true moment where we could properly feel what was going on.
Know what I could use right now?
Val quirked her eyebrow.
A transporter ride home and a shower?
I laughed a bit.
I mean, those would be nice, but nah. Sizzle pie and a pint of amber drop top. That'd be just the best right now.
Oh, don't remind me. Or salt and straw.
I started nodding emphatically.
That's right. Pizza, beer, and ice cream.
The timer was ticking down, and as it went from 10, I started counting it down verbally, drawing Val into it. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Right on cue, the holographic screen came on, with Ravajtik's visage smiling out at us from over the edge of the bluff. I gave a cursory look around, but I didn't see any other screens. From the bluff, we had an unobstructed view, so that meant we were alone by potentially miles from other contestants.
Congratulations, survivors. I hope everyone made it to a strong position that they're happy with. Several of you gave us quite a show, and on that note, we have some awards and even a penalty to give out. Let us start with ignoble Rothani, who have destroyed their wristbands. Tisk, tisk, tisk. That was very naughty of you, and now for consequence. You will not be able to self-quit for the rest of the game, and will only be forfeit if your body fails you. As well, you will not be able to receive your starting supplies. Best of luck to you. Next, 2 teams have been eliminated. The Migraine have been eliminated due to injury, as have the Telesh. Let's go back to that moment, both for our cherished audience and our competitors.
On the screen, the host cross-faded to video of a fight between the Telesh, the lion taurs we'd seen earlier, and the Migraine, a more insectoid species. While the Telesh had ultimate won their fight, dominating the smaller Migraine, the Telesh had been bitten, and apparently the Migraine had a venomous bite, eventually rendering the Telesh. Clearly, fighting each other was high risk. The host returned to view.
Truly, it saddens us to see such strong competitors leave us so soon, but fear not. Both the Migraine and the Telesh will now become a part of the Cathril Dominion. May the Emperor reign eternal.
It was sobering, and Val looked upset. I was more concerned about her morale than the actual losses, but I felt the gravity of it. The Rothani would have no survival supplies, essentially crippling them, and with no ability to quit on their own, this meant they would almost certainly be circling the drain before losing their own world to the Cathril Dominion. Ravajtik gave a moment of remembrance for the survivors eliminated, then came back to speak.
And finally, we have a special award to give out.
A sudden screen popped up in the middle of our vision, stating we had an achievement. Achievement, the Valiant.
This award is given to the scrappy little humans of Earth. Keith and Val went farther inland than any other competitors, by quite the margin. As a reward for this achievement, they will be given extra supplies to start with that should help them establish their shelter. And now, without further ado, your equipment.
The screen closed, and there was a sound behind us, along with 3 pillars of light, leaving a set of large containers behind as they faded. Our supplies were transported in, 1 container labeled for me, 1 for Val, and 1 marked bonus. Finally, the real game could begin.
Hey everyone, hope you loved the video. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe for more awesome sci-fi content. You can also support us by hitting the thanks button at the bottom of the video. Your generosity goes a long way. Every bit helps us bring you more stories from the stars. Thanks a bunch.